Welcome back to the channel. I don't think I need an intro for all of this. We're family at this point. You've been here way too many times for us not to be familiar. Today's story time. I wanted to at least share a story with you, something that I went through in my past, and hopefully you can learn from it. I want to show you, at least have you understand how I saw things while I was going through, how I felt after I left it, and talking about a relationship with DV and abuse and all that stuff and near death, um, and how I overcame it, and that I'm in my right mind today. Like, thank God. Like, thank God. Okay, so story time. But before I do that, I wanted to at least share my new skincare regime. I might be doing some vlogs where I show you in depth, but I am trying to take better care of myself internally, mentally, spiritually, and externally. And so I don't wear that much makeup anymore, but when I do, I want to make sure that I'm wearing the right products and using the right products, even as a makeup artist. But I had jumped back on to Dermalogica. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Dermalogica. So there's four pieces to this regime. So it entails a pre-cleanse. So pre-cleanse is not so soapy. It cleans, it prepares your skin, right? So it lifts the impurities and all that stuff. And then I go in with the cleansing gel. And then I will periodically, not all the time, I'll use the daily microfoliant. It's like powder and you rub it together. It's like white and you'll feel the graininess of it and you exfoliate, and then I rinse that off, and then I use the skin smoothing cream. So this is a small set that you can get on Amazon for like 50, 60 bucks, 60 bucks to be exact. I'll put the link in the description box below if you want to try it out, because it's best to try something in sample portions and then see if it works for you. But anyhow, yeah, that's how come I don't have any makeup on, shining and glistening, and my natural skin feels good. Trust me, it does. It's all a part of it. So when I was, hold on, back up. The reason why I wanted to at least share now, and I've been like unctioned to, is because recently one of my son's father was arrested, and it hit the news, and it did put a shock to my son, like both my children and my family. But it also created awareness in the sense of like my patterns, because that's all I want to focus on, in a sense of becoming better, the patterns that I've had in my past that I want to unpatronize, or like have, like, that going forward, and breaking those patterns. My youngest son said to me, "Mom, like, the guys you talk to, like, what's up?" And I laughed, but then I walked away, like, not laughing anymore. I'm like, he's noticed it. So it's like, that goes with generational curses. That's another video, but it's like you really need to study your ancestral line, your past, and the women in your family, and your mother and your father's bloodline, and habits, even if it's diabetes and stuff that's repetitive and known within the family, and knowing that you've broken every generational curse because of what you've accepted, which is Jesus. You need to understand your history going forward, right? So I actually analyzed. I'm like, wow, my first child's father was very abusive, very, very abusive, like gun knives, everything, like very abusive. The second was abusive as well. Even the relationship after my first son's father was very abusive. I was in and out the hospital, stabbed, all kinds of stuff was going on, threatened, and almost and even with my second son's father, he was verbally abusive, but I was very violent, like physically. I was unhinged in the sense of like not loving myself, not knowing myself, and thinking I was protecting myself. And then going forward, I married a man that had a bad history, but clearly in my eyes and my sight, loved the Lord and wanted to change for his life. And when we had split, I'm not saying he backslid, but he sort of went back to his common ground and what he knew. And in that lifestyle, it took his life. I wasn't married to him at that time, but I'm just looking at the men that I've been with and the women in my family. And I'm not speaking for them, but me, like, honestly watching the abuse. Like, even my cousin lost her life to a relationship, a failed marriage. And even for myself and my mother and stuff, like the women in the, I'm just like, that generational curse break. So I wanted to at least share these stories with you so that you understand that even through it and how you feel, there's others that have gone through it, and it's relatable in the sense of like we can talk about it and we can overcome it. You know what I'm saying? Like you don't need to stay there in the sense of thinking that you're the only one, and you don't need to be down on yourself because it's happening to you. It happens. It's happening. It happened to me. It's not happening anymore, and that's why I'm sharing this story with you. So I was in, oh my God, many. This one was when I was in a relationship with this person after my first. Well, I didn't have my son at the time, but I was dating my first son's father, and we broke up, and I met someone else, and we started dating. And this person was known for his art. Very nice man. Came from a background where his mother was married to someone or with someone that was very abusive, but ended up leaving. But it affected the children. So he himself was around abuse. So he thought, I guess, was normal to slap a woman and choke at a woman and all that stuff. Me coming from a relationship that all of that entailed that, and so I thought it was quite normal. So that's part of the mind process that I had going through all these relationships, that I sort of deserved it and it's part of a relationship and just go through it. So I was with him, and I used to dance in electric circus. I used to, party with my friends. I used to go out all the time. And remember, I didn't have any children at this time that I'm talking to this person. This person would have me on a time restraint. He'd time me from how long it would take me to leave electric circus downtown to go to his house. He would time me how long it would take for me to leave school to go to his house, to leave my house to go to his house. Like he would time me all the time. He was very strict. And if I was late, I would get knocked out. I'd get slapped and stuff. But I remember this one occasion, his mother had moved into the area that I was living in at the time, around the Danforth area. So they moved like 2 streets. I was surprised because he's like, "Oh, we moved." I was like, "Okay," and then boom, 2 streets over, like we're walking. He came to see me. We're walking, and then as soon as we hit 2 streets on the Danforth over, he goes, "That's my house right there." I was like, "Shoot!" Like I didn't know if it was a good thing or a bad thing at the time, but I remember he asked me to come over, and our relationship was rocky. It was really rocky, back and forth. And plus, my first baby father was trying to win me over, trying to talk to me, even though I was talking to somebody new. Even them two got into a fight. That's another story. And so I went over to his place. We're in his basement because his apartment was in the basement. One of the eldest, second child, and there was four children. His sister's oldest, then him, and then the two youngest ones. So his mom was trying to start anew, which I applaud her for. She's very strong, and she's no longer here. His mother's no longer here. I don't mean to be all over the place, but I'm creating a scenario in regards to the level of stress that his mom was going through. But she's no longer here. She passed due to the C word, and she's still trying to take care of her children at this time. So she wasn't home. The two young children were not home. I think the eldest child didn't live there with them, and so we went. We went to his place, and he lived in the basement. We're chilling there. We're watching a movie as usual. He's cuddling with me, and he wanted to do some stuff with me. And to be quite honest, I'm not sure if we did or not. Most likely we did. And we got into this argument. And he went upstairs for a second and came back down. And he was hitting me. I was trying to fight back because it's common for me to try and fight back because I think I'm a superwoman. But that's defense, right? And he would choke me, punch me in my face like several times. I remember blood coming out of somewhere. I got so used to it. I shouldn't laugh about it or even like joke about it, but I was so used to it because it happened all the time. So he was punching me. He was sitting on top of me. I was on my back, and he had my arms up on his knees on my arms because my arms were like somewhat like this, and he was on top of me, and he's just ham side to side to side. I felt my face just breaking. And then I wiggled out. I got out, and he grabbed a pair of scissors and he stabbed me. I still have a scar. He stabbed me in my hand, and he almost severed my pinky finger, almost severed it off. And I knew at that time in my mind, out of all the times that I've been with him in the abuse, like I knew from before, it flashed in my mind that he's going to take my life. That's the moment that I knew that it was going to happen. I knew it, hit the blackness in his eyes, the adrenaline he was on. I saw it. So he went upstairs to go do something or grab something or whatever. He's yelling and screaming. He went upstairs, and strength that I had, I got up, and I remember dragging myself. I got up, I ran through the back door, and I was in the alley, like in between houses. I was on the ground, like grabbing onto the wall and dragging myself, screaming for help. And I heard him coming from behind me. It's like one of those films, man. I think, oh. And I went to the neighbor's house. So his house is on this side. I went to the neighbor's house, and as I went to the front stairs, I guess they heard me screaming. They opened the door, and they're like, "Okay, come, 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 come." They brought me inside. That's when I actually like took a breath. I didn't even realize how bad I looked. They were looking at me like something was really wrong. And I was like, oh my gosh. And they said, we're going to call police. I was like, no, 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 no. And I got so scared because I'm like, he's going to end my life. He knows where I live. And all these things were flashing into my mind. I'm like, my family, oh my gosh. They called the police. The police came. I'm going to speak about how I felt at that time, how I felt in the hospital, and how I feel now. How I felt at the time was, I love him. He loves me. We're just going through the argument. We'll overcome this. This is our language of love. But when the blood and everything started happening, and the blackness in his eyes were like, I was scared. But I had this fight in me where I was like, I can get out of this. But then when it came to the point of like exhaustion and defeat in my mind, I felt like my life was going to end at that moment. In the hospital, it was a sense of relief, but fear as well, because I'm just like, okay, the fear that he's embedded in me, it doesn't matter what anyone else is saying to me, police, nurses, he's still going to get me because he has access to me. You guys can't save me. You guys don't know what this is all about. You guys were never been there from jump. So why are you going to do something now? He lives just down the street from me. He could come in the middle of the night. Like, he has a way of getting to me. How I feel now? Oof. Thankful. Thankful. Out of the many times that he has put his hands on me, try to take my life, like he could have many times. He could have just, because his thing was the neck choking and knocking out in my face and busting my face and busting my lips and blackening my eyes, visually just trying to fracture me here and here. Um, Today I am thankful. I am thankful. I'm grateful. I know that it's the Lord that has saved my life. And it doesn't matter how many times I met a different man with the same spirit. I know God saved me through all those relationships. I knew it. I know that now. Because even in the past, me, that relationship, the marriage ending was a good thing. I'm not saying because he's gone. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying where he was going to lead me. As women, we trust the man that we're with. You know what I'm saying? We are trained, or we're sort of naturally the human being that nurtures and takes in and loves and tries to fix, and and we crave that marriage where it's like two people and someone loving on us and covering us, and just uplifting us, and just loving on us the way God would see it. And it's like, when we don't get that, whatever happens, it's hard for us to come out because we still want it. Sometimes it's easy for us to come out of that relationship, but it's like we have that mindset of understanding above and beyond whatever's going on, right? So I'm so thankful that God took me out of those relationships, in the sense of protecting me even in my decisions, protecting me even in me blaming myself, protecting me even in thinking I can fix these people, making excuses. Today, I can say that it's the Lord that saved me in all those situations. Even looking at some of my family members and the things that they went through, I'm just like, I thank God. Honestly, I think when I was in it, I didn't even want to hear God. I didn't want to hear anybody. When I came out of it, I wasn't healed in a sense of understanding what I just came out of. So I automatically went into another abusive relationship, even in a different manner, of a different level of abuse, but it was abuse. It was because I didn't heal myself. I didn't go through counseling. I didn't learn how to love myself. I didn't uh, research the tools of how to unlearn what I knew and to learn what I need to in order to love myself and to accept a man that's going to love me for me like that. You're more aware when you're healed. When you're not healed, you justify their actions, and it's 85% of the chance, or even 65 to 85% chance you'll meet somebody else that's similar to them. I was always blaming every guy that I was speaking to until I wanted better for myself. I even contacted some of the men that I used to talk to ask them why they did what they did to me. They're like, "Why are you calling me? I just want to know. You're so hot for you, so hot tempered. Your mouth is this, that. I had to hit you, I had to tame you." I was like, wow. The way they were saying it was like they're still doing it now. I'm like, oh gosh, like I hope that they really get help. But I wasn't even concerned about that. I was calling based off of my patterns, what I needed to do to become better, and the commonality or the common denominator in all those relationships. Why I even called them to ask. I wanted better for myself. I wanted the love of God, which I didn't know at the time. I wanted genuine love to understand how to receive love. I wanted to learn how to love myself in order to receive love. And it's a process. I don't blame my family. I don't blame anyone in my life anymore. I don't even blame them because it was a choice that I made based off of the immaturity of my mind and lack of knowledge. And immature doesn't mean something negative. It just means I wasn't mature enough to know or even educated to know. But based off of that, I'm just like, yo, I went through that for a reason. I think I believe that I went through that to at least share that with you. If you're going through a relationship that is abusive, whether it's verbal or physical, I would say two things because I don't know and I'm not going to tell you what to do. One, I would say it's best to spend time with yourself, spend time with God, and find out what love is, even if you were taught wrong. Find out how your love language is to receive love. Receive love from God to understand what love is. And trust me, it's beautiful. I'm never alone. I'm never alone. And I understand his covering. I understand his grace. I understand his provision, his protection. I understand all that now because I seek it. Two, try not to blame yourself and try not to make excuses for him to stay in it. It's okay to be alone, to face yourself, to become better. It may be a little bit scary, but you need someone to help you through that, counseling, a mentor, whatever the case may be. But to stay in it, the possibility of you losing your life or even losing your mind goes up, because it's like when you're in a relationship like that, you believe what they're telling you. You believe the words that they're telling you, whether they're gaslighting you or whether it's truth. I would say that even the way that they speak is the way that they think. No fault of theirs. But I'm just like, I would prefer to be with a secure man, knowing that he's flawed in many different areas, but he needs God's help and guidance to become that man. And when he speaks to me, he knows what to say to me. Even in error, I'll okay. But if a man has low self-esteem and is insecure and is just a little bit unhinged in the sense of the way he treats others, he's eventually going to treat you like that too. And as women, we make excuses by trying to fix them, trying to, waiting it out for them to change and stuff. But it's like, no, if he has a mindset of wanting better for himself and trying to love you the way that is best for both of you guys, that's a good thing. But staying in a relationship where it's like, the outcome, this, you see, you're going to get into an argument next week, it's unhealthy. It's just, what I'm saying? It's toxic in a sense. You see these things, but it's because you don't love yourself enough to know that you should receive better. And no, and not saying that the person is not good and they're rotten, whatever. There's somebody for them, but there's somebody for you. And I think in finding more of yourself by remaining alone and even being celibate, because trust me, that will blind you too, because that kind of attention is wrong. Trust me, I used to love it. I used to bounce all up in it, thinking that my looks was like this and my body's like this and they love me and we're having sex and da da da, we're enjoying life and we're holding hands and stuff like that. It's short lived because it's like, it's lust. It becomes lust. And it permits his behavior towards, because he feels he owns me because I've given myself to him. Try to be alone. Try to learn how to love yourself. Get the necessary counseling that there's free counseling out there if you do some research. I'm going to see if I can find some links. Share the pain you're going through with a loved one. It may be shameful because of what's going on. You keep it to yourself, but the more you keep it to yourself is the more that it becomes a trap. It becomes a hindrance. But my advice is focus on you more and loving yourself. Read some books, do what you need to do for yourself. And then when you're ready for a relationship, have a relationship. You know what I'm saying? My heart is for those that are in it, that are out of it to heal, that are in it to understand what's going on. And for those that have not even been in it and just to be aware of it. That's my heart. because I am a survivor of many things that you will know of in my book and even here on this YouTube channel. So thank you so much for listening to the story time. I didn't even take not one sip, but hopefully you learned something from what was said. I love you with the love of God, and I'll see you in the next video. I got to start my online class just now. Pajamas and all. All right.